Hey, it's Drybear. The First Descendant devs have taken to Discord and online to do their normal Q&A, which they do every couple months or so. A lot of players have a lot of questions around Season 3, Serena, balance changes, Inez, and everything in between, so let's dive into the Q&A discussion. Kicking things off, we have the director who is responding to the feedback around the game in general. Obviously, we had a Inez change that not many people liked. In fact, it triggered a review bomb, and there are people that to this day still have quit the First Descendant because of the change that they made to Inez. And they claimed, I mean, the first Inez patch, which I think was the wrong call, they changed it so her chain lightning requires line of sight both on the bounce and the initial cast. In the last hotfix, they claimed that this part of this was a bug, that it wasn't, that the chain lightning was being disabled mid-flight and losing bounces. It also was failing to target when it should have, and with those fixes, I would say Inez feels better, though not quite as good as she did before. It's pretty close. So I think, you know, they said it was a bug, maybe it was a bug that made it feel so bad, but they are just kind of acknowledging the balanced state of the game right now. So they say that we are fully aware of the recent discomfort and concerns surrounding balance and content. Through this AMA, I hope we can directly share our thoughts and direction with the scope of what can be disclosed. We may not answer every question, but just kind of stay tuned. We are listening with everything that's going on. Which leads us into the next response from them, is they mentioned that Serena's fourth ability skill was under internal review due to its high performance. I mean, really, everything about Serena is like bloat to the max. They've kind of adopted this gacha game strategy where the newest character is always just the strongest and insanely powerful. Some of this is either intentional or just due to not putting enough effort into maintaining the balance. It's hard to know from the outside exactly what it's coming. Like, there could just be a mandate that says that, hey, all new characters must be completely broken and double that amount if they are a curvy female in their development line, but we'll see kind of how that goes. After considering various feedback and the overall game balance, we have decided not to proceed with numerical adjustments at this time. Instead, to prepare for a future implementation of a health growth system, we will set an upper limit on gun damage scaling with HP. This cap will not affect the current standard setups, but is a preemptive measure to prevent excessive performance increases due to future growth mechanics. The big thing here is not only does Serena have all of these stim effects, she has ability damage, she has movement, but she also has the ability to scale her damage based on maximum HP, which a percentage increase like that can be very dangerous depending on what you're looking at. And that's part of the reason why Serena could just do ridiculous things with the right build, is not only does she have all these other buffs, but she also has percent scaling on top of everything else, which just makes it even more ridiculous. Next, they mentioned that this is like their plans going forward. In May, they want skill dealers' effectiveness will be further enhanced in the Void Erosion Purge to improve parity with gun dealers. And yes, I am farming red tickets right now. I'm not dying on accident, it is on purpose. In May, the arcade tuning socket item will be introduced to enhance skill dealers' performance. So arcade tuning socket item targeted specifically at skill dealers' performance. We'll see how that works out. I mean, generally when they try to limit one thing or the other, it's like a partial gate and there's still ways to go around it. Like, players are just being crafty all the time trying to figure that out, but we'll see how this arcade tuning socket thing works. And then in June, an external core update will be added to allow further growth in HP, defense, and shield stats. So what they're doing is, you know, obviously everything's relative when it comes to balance. If they decide that the player is too strong, they can either make the player weaker, they can make the player or the enemies stronger, or they can just make the whole game stronger and have ways for the players to scale up, which can be very effective in, you know, the growth of the player over time, but also can be very dicey depending on how they manage it. And so we'll see, like, this could just completely fall apart depending on how they decide to handle the ongoing power creep in the game. They also say that Descendant balance adjustments will be made separately, and we're also considering raising the baseline for skill dealers for successors or descendants, requiring large-scale mechanism improvements such as Eugen and Jaber. We believe simple reworks or numerical tweaks are not sufficient. And they believe this because they've tried many times, specifically on Jaber. At this point, Jaber has had like 4 balance adjustments and like 2 or 3 minor to moderate reworks. And it's kind of confusing too, because you feel like if they can make you know, Serena broken on launch, if they can make Inez broken on launch, if they can make Ultimate Freyna's rework broken on launch, why is it so hard for them to make Jaybert broken in the same way, especially considering he's received, you know, almost in the double digits reworks, buffs, balances, and changes that were targeted to make him better, and they just can't seem to get him there. Next, they plan to expand systems that allow for further growth and tuning ups of Descendant builds in Season 3. This will help close current performance gaps and bring together balance between gun and skill-based builds, and this is their update schedule. For Season 3, they want to introduce the new passive skills selectable by Descendants in mid-Season 3 for their first kind of mid-season, you know, Episode 2 expansion of additional reactor enhancement stages, so the reactors will get even stronger, introduction of a new module system with randomized stat options, and then Season 3 and beyond, they want to gradually roll out of endgame content centered around skill dealers. Part of this makes me wonder too, because I feel like it's not like the skill dealers are so much worse off, right? It feels like this might be, at least in the long run, an overcorrection or just like a, you know, pendulum / whiplash response to this, because realistically, skill Descendants were everything and gun Descendants were nothing. Then they added in a system that is targeted only, or, you know, 95% despite the rollover, the weapon core system, on making weapons stronger. And then they did a hard endgame content gameplay experience that drastically nerfs your skill damage and drastically buffs your weapon damage. So of course, in VEP, and especially with the new Descendants like Serena that have weapon scaling, of course the weapon builds are going to be more prominent, but I don't know if they need 8 new systems to make the skill-based Descendants more prominent, because they might just have the same problem in reverse. But let me know what you think about these kind of plans for Season 3 and their Episode 1 and 2 and beyond down below. Now, they also promised this before, but they're reiterating it because it came up again in the Q&A. Yes, they are working on buffs for underperforming ultimate weapons, and I would say that this is one of the areas that they're excelling in. There's definitely a lot of weapons that have felt really weak, but they've done a really good job over, like, you know, since June or July, making old weapons feel fresh. Like, they've had crazy reworks that just make the weapons like last, Dagger, the final masterpiece. The rework to Kingsguard Lance took it from one of the worst weapons into the game to a very niche but very effective and interesting weapon. Some of the new weapons have been pretty cool with like Malevolent and things like that. So they definitely done a good job. Praise where it's due on that. And so they are planning to do more buffs for underperforming or underutilized ultimate weapons in the future. People also asked about the upcoming Axiom Field in Season 3, if there's going to be higher difficulty options and preferably even a challenge mode. I think, you know, after, I don't even know, like 10 months of being live, they finally figured out that people want challenge modes. They just don't want basic content and gameplay elements like weapons and stuff to be hard gated behind challenge content. So I think they finally learned that lesson that a lot of MMOs and other games have been implementing, which is awesome. And hopefully they stick with this paradigm with the Void Erosion Purge, where they have the, you know, the farming portion, which is, hey, get your weapon cores, get everything unlocked. Then they have a challenge portion. Now, I still have gripes with the implementation they have for the challenge portion. I feel like the one-time bonus is not really super exciting. You put a group together in private only and you do the Void Erosion Purge challenge, you get your bonus, and then you're done with it forever. I kind of wish that they had like a little bit more incentive to climb the leaderboards, or potentially even just some, like, you know, a solo version versus a group version with its own leaderboards and things like that, that just really feel like it's tailored to that and it just doesn't dynamically scale with the size of the group. But in general, I think it is the right path, and they could certainly do, like with Axiom Field, with New Colossus, with the Abyss, you could have harder versions that are more prestige focused than are content focused. You're not trying to lock, you know, gameplay content like items and stuff behind the difficult content, but having options for people that really want to test their build and push further. So they said that they will have Axiom Field in Season 3 with higher difficulty tiers than current content. We're prioritizing the addition of endgame content that allows skill-based damage dealers to fully enjoy the experience. It was also asked again, as it has been asked pretty much at every Q&A, is just people want, you know, player housing, a special place to hang out. They want like the Warframe ship, or like the Path of Exile hideout, or like player housing that you can show off all of your trophies and stuff like FF14 or whatever. They just want an area where they can kind of like you know, revel in their laurels and just be happy about their achievements. So it was asked again. It's on the roadmap for a lounge feature, and so they will be revealing more details about the lounge feature at the upcoming PAX East, so stay tuned for more details on that. And trust me, the recurring theme for this Q&A is going to be character balance, descendant balance, weapon balance, content balance. It's kind of like you have a large group of people that have been playing since July that have a need for content that is worthy of their investment, and they just feel like they're out of stuff to do or out of meaningful challenges or hills to climb in that standpoint. So they were asked again about this, like, what are you going to do about descendant balance going forward? Should we expect that the characters we're investing into can get suddenly worse like we did with Inez? What's going to happen with Serena? What about the new characters coming out? That sort of thing. And what do they plan to do to help better their focus on, you know, the actual game balance itself? So they respond with, we're faced with recurring challenges in content development and maintaining game balance when new characters were released in a relatively strong state. So they're just acknowledging where we're at right now. After revealing why this kept happening, our team has had extensive discussions on what standards we should apply when releasing new characters. We concluded that releasing characters in a balanced state from the outset is the most sustainable approach. Okay, so they want to release perfectly balanced characters on release. That's what they want, and everyone wants to eat Maine lobster for dinner every night. We concluded that releasing characters in a balanced state is the most stable approach. Accordingly, we plan to work on balancing all characters to a more equal level. You can check the related roadmap as well as that, and we'll be doing our best to maintain a healthier balance. So basically, they're just saying, we want to do better. And we'll leave it on this last one, which is super ominous, but very cool. Another question that comes up a lot in these Q&As is, can we have NPCs be playable characters? Can we play with Jeremy if he's supposedly coming back? Alpha, can we play as Alpha? What about the main girl, Nell? What about those things? And they say that the question specifically was, there's no rule that says characters need to have RK in order to be playable. Like, we've seen plenty of characters that are, you know, useful in the field without having RK themselves. And the response from the director was, to become a descendant, having RK is essential. So they're kind of saying that they're not going to, you know, give us descendants that don't have RK as some form or function. Like, there's no going to be, you know, no Batman with gadgets and stuff like that, I guess. However, since an RK can manifest later in life, as it did with Dia and Glay, for example, all of humanity holds the potential to become a descendant, period. And that's where they end that. So I'm going to leave that as the final note for the Q&A today. We'll check back in tomorrow when they have more questions, answers, that sort of thing. But maybe they might be able to slap some RK on characters that are very well liked, like Nell potentially, or you know, Kate or whatever. Like, maybe we get some of those that are very fan favorite-y. But let me know what you think down below and what NPCs you'd like to see as a playable character in the future. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.